Welcome to Catch You Outdoors, episode number 11. Christmas is coming, gifts for the outdoorsy person. Yep, some ideas for the fisher person, camper, kayaker, etc., etc. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modes. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to let you know you can contact me via email at catchyoutdoors@gmail.com. Our website is catchyoutdoors.com. There you'll find a list of episodes, both past and future. And yes, of course, there's a Facebook page, Catch You Outdoors. In addition to all that fun stuff, my first book, What I Know About Fishing Southwest Florida, was released in last November. All the signed copies have been sold. Unless I decide to do a reprint, there won't be any more. You can get it, however, on Amazon Kindle. All you got to do is just order it. Remember, those are not going to be signed copies. My second book, Bridge to Paradise, is now available. You can purchase signed copies editions at catchyoutdoors.com. It's also available online at Amazon Kindle, but those are not signed copies. Phew-wee. And with that, all the business is out of the way. Christmas gifts for the outdoorsy folks. I was going to do this later in the month, and then I started seeing supply issues and ordering online issues and shipping problems, and so I figured it's time to go for it now. So here you are. I'm giving it to you a little bit early, which is probably a good thing at this point. I'm a procrastinator shopper. I'm the worst. I'm trying not to set an example, and this year I'm doing much better. I have already sent gifts to my brother, my sister, my mom, and I'm working on my wife. So things are looking pretty good. In a word, just starting out with Christmas gifts for outdoors, I'm just going to lay it right on the line. Number one of the easiest things you can possibly do is go to Bass Pro. Bass Pro shops. Now, if you're in Florida, they're all over the place. I lived a couple of years ago over in Fort Myers. Now I'm in Fort Lauderdale, so there's a big one in Dania. There's one down in the Keys on Isla Mirada. Also up in the middle of the state near Tampa, there's one now. Orlando's got one, Jacksonville, and I may have missed somebody, but they're all over the state of Florida. I encourage you to shop in person when you can. It makes choosing a whole lot easier. However, Bass Pro's got an excellent catalog online, but I kind of like touchy-feely. I'm old. That's how it works, okay? No, I am not sponsored by Bass Pro. I spent a great deal of time at Bass Pro because I was a fishing guide, so I went in and out of there looking for lures and product and stuff for my boat and repair stuff and whatever. Also, I did seminars there for quite a while on fishing, so I feel kind of connected, and having been in there so much, I know what a great place it is at Christmas time. There's just so much going on. And not only do they have fishing gear, they have got hunting gear, archery, and camping. There's also outdoor cooking. There's like grills and smokers. And then they have kayaks with all kinds of kayaks, accessories, and supplies, and coolers. I mean, something as simple as a cooler. What outdoor person doesn't need a cooler? Even though shipping can be a problem, Bass Pro will take care of that for you. But keep in mind now, it's not their fault. Only thing that seems horribly reliable right now is FedEx, UPS, and Amazon. Those things all seem to be doing what they're supposed to do, and I'm sure they're going to get into a crunch, so be prepared for that. More importantly, like I said, product seems to be the bigger issue. So if you go to a store, it's like right there in front of you. You know you have it. You know you can carry it home. You know you can wrap it, and then you can ship it. And if that doesn't work out for you so well, then you can order it online. But again, I get back to the touchy-feely. This seems like a really good year for going out and buying, not only from a Bass Pro type place, but from mom and pops. So I also want to mention some other places that you might want to check out. We'll start with online first. Tackle Direct. I'm a fan of Tackle Direct. I get an email from them just about once a week with their latest items and goodies. This is mostly for the fishermen. They do carry a lot of accessories, but it's reasonably priced, and I have not had trouble receiving stuff from them. I've ordered quite a few lures and things like that. They also offer some really great deals on equipment. Another good one is Discount Tackle. I've ordered soft plastics from them. They seem to get the newest, latest, greatest like DOA and Z-Mans and stuff like that before anybody else. So those make fantastic gifts, and I'll get more into that in a minute. Go Mom and Pop. Okay, if you're not going to do it online, you want to do it yourself. Say you're buying for a local, or you're willing to, go right now, go get it, wrap it, and get it shipped out as soon as possible. Do mom and pops. I mean, let's face it, they have come off a year and a half of some of the worst business possible, and now's the time. Now's the time to support the mom and pop store. Um, no matter, just go to one. No matter where you go, there is one. Oh well, except one place. Yeah, Palm Springs, California. I got to bring this up. It just popped into my head a couple days ago. Everywhere I have ever traveled, there's a tackle shop. And if you all know me, I will visit. I have to go. It's like, let's go see what's there. In the middle of Arizona, I found an Orvis store, of all places in the desert, and I went to the Orvis store. But in California, Jonelle and I took a break. We took a vacation, her a business break. So it was kind of a combination thing years ago in Palm Springs, California. Beautiful place. I loved hiking the desert. There are many, many streams around. There are some parks. There's some big lakes, but there ain't no tackle dealers. It absolutely stunned me. A place as big and as affluent as this area is, you'd think you would have found a fly shop. So no, that doesn't work there. Now, this may have changed in the last 3 or 4 years. If so, send me an email and let me know. I'll be happy to correct it on the next show. But stay with the mom and pops if you can. Lures, it's easier to buy. It's easier to actually put your hands on stuff if you go to a mom and pop store. I know in the Fort Myers area, I visited 239 Flies a lot. Dave Wester's shop, Lear's Economy Tackle, is there. And there are also many, many others. I don't want to pin it down to just the two that I went to. But any area you're in, go online, type in your city, put fishing or fishing tackle or outdoor supplies or something of that nature, and see what pops up. And then go visit them and make that a big deal for Christmas time this year. One of the nicest things about going on site, you can ask for help, especially in the realm of something you don't know much about. If you're trying to buy something for an outdoor person, maybe they camp and you've never been camping. You don't know the first thing about camping. That's when the stores come in real handy. You get somebody standing there in front of you. I'm looking for something for a camper. What would you recommend? Something for a fisherman, golfing, grilling, whatever it might be. You're better off standing in front of an employee at the store who can walk you through some ideas. So if you're in the store, don't hesitate to ask for help. Now, for the fisher person, I'm going to start there. We'll go all over the place before this is over with. The easiest thing you can give somebody in fishing is lures, fishing lures, soft plastics, hard, jig heads. It doesn't matter. They all buy them, they all have them, and they all appreciate more. There's not a fisherman around that doesn't enjoy getting lures of all shapes and sizes. I personally like soft plastics. There are a zillion of them. When I say soft plastics, for those of you that are uninitiated, this is a lure that is made of a soft gummy bear-like plastic, except you can't eat it. Well, I don't know. No, don't do that. There's also, they stretch, multicolors, and they work. They really work for almost any kind of fishing, fresh or salt. My favorites, DOA, Z-Man, those are two big ones that I've been with and fished with for years. There's also Culprit. That's a really good lure. The Sluggo is still one of my favorite for fishing both fresh and salt. Sluggos are made by Lunker City. So there's a few to start with, but don't hesitate to ask. If you run into somebody at the store that's into fishing, I almost guarantee you they're using soft plastics. They're hard to avoid, but go after them with that. In the salt, there's also a collection. You could get them a collection of popping corks. All of us tend to use some sort of a cork, whether it's a float for seeing when a fish hits, or actually a tool, which is a popping cork, something that makes noise while you fish. They come in different colors. Make it a rainbow assortment. Get them a little equipment box and load it up with popping corks and soft plastics and things like that. In the realm of lures, the plastic or wood casting ones, with the treble on them, Yozuri, Rapala, Mirrolure, et cetera, et cetera. There are ones with plastic lips on them which dive, and they wiggle nicely. Ones without are for jerking on the surface. So basically, you throw those out and you work them by hand by basically just popping the end of the rod to make them bounce in a weird way. Basically, I call them hard plastic jerk baits. Top waters, not real popular in the winter, but they're going to wish they had them in the spring and the summer. A top water bait is exactly as it sounds. It walks on top of the surface with action from the angler. Those are broken down into different categories at these stores. You'll see them in display in groups, so they're pretty easy to spot. I love MirrOlure. That's just one of my old-time favorites. They've been around for, I'm going to say a gazillion years because they've been around as long as I can remember, and I'm old. They're really great. They make a multitude of colors, styles. Get something that looks like a little fish to you. Imitation is probably the best way you can go in any kind of fishing. And if you can find something that looks like a small minnow, a shiner, whatever, that's kind of where you want to be with those. And they make excellent gifts because you can really go kind of crazy with it. So be creative. When you're shopping, here's the deal. Anglers are nuts about colors. And they'll get locked into one. I know personally, I like to use brown. It's usually on cloudy days. I like brown or deep gold colors. And then on bright sunny days, I go almost totally toward the white side. Cream, bone, stuff like that. Mess them up. Pick an assortment of colors. Blues, greens, mixtures. Go for it. We call them clown lures, the ones that have got colors all over them of different kinds. You'd be surprised how many people I've watched catch a fish on something I wouldn't throw in the water at all. And so, and if it pleases you, try it and do it. Just go for it. Don't be afraid to do that. It's kind of like fisher people are they're gadgety kind of people anyway. They like gadgets. And they're not going to take back something you give them that looks like, I probably really ought to throw that. I really ought to see if this works or not. I mentioned gadgets. Fisher people, hunters, outdoor people, campers, doesn't matter. They love gadgets. Shop gadgets. Go to the accessory section of if you're in fishing, go to the accessories. If you're in camping, go to accessories. If you're in the kayak sections, go to whatever store you happen to be in, go to the accessories and see what they have. These intriguing little things wind up more often than not on someone's boat, kayak, or in their fishing bag. Landing nets, tackle bags that hold stuff, specially made pliers for all sorts of sports, whether it's camping or fishing. A lip gripper. Sounds weird, doesn't it? A lip gripper is something that's used when you're fishing to hold the fish in place while you remove a hook. And in most cases, very safe for you and for the fish. For the fly fisherman, this gets tricky. A lot trickier. Both salt and fresh. I hate to say it'll be a little tougher, but if you go in person to a fly shop, it won't be anywhere near as daunting. Visit a shop, ask questions while you're there. What would you, the employee, looking at the employee, what would you recommend? What would you like to get as a gift? That might be a real simple way to get the fly thing done. Fly fishing is a little more intricate. I caution you about buying flies and stuff like that because that does get a little more touchy with the individual and what type of fishing they're doing. So if you want to do something along those lines, there's nothing wrong with that. However, I'd recommend outdoor clothing. You can't go wrong in outdoor clothing, whether it's for fly fishing or regular fishing or even just any outdoors person. There's lots and lots of clothing available. The only advice I'll give you on that is go a little larger, for example, in the shirt size, so that it vents, so that when they're outside, the air and the wind blows kind of through it on those hotter days and helps breathe. Same thing with jackets in the wintertime. You don't want something that's custom fit and fits them like, I don't know, like sealskin. You don't want to go there. You want space because chances are they're going to have a t-shirt, long sleeve tee, and a shirt underneath, and then put the jacket on top, which they can remove as the day warms up. We call that layering. So make sure that you give them enough space to work on that if you decide to buy them a jacket of some type. And when it comes to clothing, keep the receipt. Yeah, that's one thing that anybody can take back just because the size is slightly off or the style is not quite right for what they're doing, and they can swap it for something else. So by all means, hang on to the receipt. Something that I thought about the other day, that anglers in particular and fly guys rarely get, and that's fishing line of any kind, whether it's a fly line, fishing line, backing, braided line, monofilament, whatever. Now, here's the trick with this. If you are close to the angler and, we're talking significant other, friend, whatever, brother, sister, and you fish with them, you pretty much know what they like to use. You can also snoop. If you live in the same house, you can go see what they've got on their equipment. Have they got braided line? Do they have monofilament line? What do they fish for? Those are the things you take to the shop with you and say, well, here's what I saw and here's what they had, and I know what kind of fish they go after. So what can I get them? Fishing line is forever in use and forever wearing out. And there is no fisherman around I know that won't deeply love a brand new fishing line. Maybe several different types, several different sizes would be cool. Go that route. Camping, also known to some people as glamping. If you don't know what that is, okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's fancy camping. Some people don't want to lie on the ground. Some people would rather go in a giant motorhome or in a camper that's got a comfortable bed in it. We'll go that route. That's glamping. Sometimes it have air conditioning in it. The camper itself would have a small air conditioner on it. That's me. I'm going to be the first to admit I do not want to spend 2 or 3 nights at a campground. No, the thought just, no. On the ground in a sleeping bag with no air conditioning or at least some sort of fan. See, I'm just a wuss. I'm not about to do that. So I guess you could call me a glamper when it comes to camping. But let me tell you what, they have all that available for camping. They really do. I mean, I've seen it and I know it's out there. So keep that in mind when you're hunting for that special gift. My daughter, her husband, and their kids love to go camping. And through her, I've learned quite a bit about it, although I don't do it much myself. I know what they like. They're kind of like the fishing folks. They really like the accessories. Quality gear, too, makes a big difference. Camping can be a brutal sport. Weather is not always the best. The gear you're using can be rained on, high humidity, very cold temperatures. I mean, it's just an enormous range when it comes to camping gear. I have found that just spend the bucks. Don't go cheap when it comes to camping. It includes things like the chairs that you might pick up for them, the folding chairs, for example, stoves. What else is out there? I mentioned coolers earlier. Get a quality cooler. The longer that sucker holds ice, the better. They can put food in it. They can put ice in it. They can put ice packs in it. A lot of these newer coolers, these highly insulated coolers, they ain't cheap. Things like Yeti, stuff like that. Those coolers, I mean, you put ice in those things and keep them shut, and they'll last for several days, which is, to me, is amazing. It's like a portable refrigerator. Speaking of that, there are portable refrigerators, and they're battery driven. You can plug them into the adapter on an automobile or Jeep or a truck, and you can have your own little mini refrigerator there that's actually powered and keeps things cold. So again, camping is the big gear they're going to buy, the big stuff. It's up to you to find those little accessories that really make a difference. Think stainless steel when it comes to utensils. Try to get stuff that, again, higher quality. Spend the bucks on the quality. And last, don't be afraid to ask. In the case of my daughter, on the years that I'm looking for that gift, that I call it the weird gift, something just being different, I'll ask her, okay, you guys camp, what do you need? And she'll usually rattle off 2 or 3 items that they'd love to have as part of their camping gear. Ta-da! Problem solved. Boating, kayaking, canoeing, maybe even paddle boarding. I'm not so sure. Things that float. Yeah, golly Moses, the opportunity for gifts is endless. Let's talk a little bit about boating right off the bat. Something that I found a few years ago, I actually bought my brother this in a past gift giving. It might have been a birthday in this case. Can holders, bottle holders, drink holders. These cup holder things are usually already built in on a boat, but they're usually in the absolute wrong place. Or they give you 2. And what do people do with 2 of them? They put their stuff in them. They'll put sunglasses, they'll stick the keys in it, they'll put whatever accessory they might have. Or as they fish and they take a lure off, instead of putting it back somewhere else, they'll just drop it in the cup holder. And guess what? No place to put your drink when you want one. There are companies out there, you can see these online or at shops, that carry cup holders that are remarkable. These things have what do you call it? You know, like your chip bag holder things, those pinchy things. There's a word for it, I'm sure. You can clip it onto stanchions, stainless steel poles, stuff like that on board the boat. Basically, you can move them anywhere. And what's really neat about it is they make multiple sizes, so you can put something as big as a tumbler in one, or if you just drink canned drinks, then there's a can size, or multiple sizes. And they can also be used for gadgets. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with getting a couple of them that are intended to toss stuff into. But the important thing is they can be located anywhere on the boat that you are able to grip. And, I got my brother one that he moves all around. It's actually double. It's got a gripper on it for a stainless steel pole on the boat, on the T-top. But it's also split into two cup holders. So you can basically use it as that, or you can use it as an accessory to hold on to gadgets and things like that. When it comes to all three that I mentioned, the main ones, boating, kayak, and canoeing, small waterproof containers are really great. My favorite is the Pelican box. Just like it sounds. The Pelican boxes come in a multitude of sizes, all the way down to one barely big enough to hold maybe a wallet and a cell phone, all the way up to good-sized, luggage-sized containers. These things are fully waterproof. For that matter, they've even got a device on the side of them that adjusts air pressure if you're going to fly. So at altitude, the pressure might change and this box might crush down or get bigger as you come down. So it has a pressure release on it. But they're really cool. I've got, 5 or 6 of them. And I still, to this day, on boats and kayaks, like anything that you don't want to get wet, should go in those. I have one for my first aid kits. Band-Aids, stuff like that goes in a small one. I have another one that carries before I get on my kayak, I open it up and pop in my wallet and my keys and things that I absolutely do not want to get wet. I do lash them to the kayak. You can do that in a boat as well. If it's something that's very important you don't want to lose, you might want to do that. They do float. When they go in the water, they will float, so they're pretty easy to locate, which leads me to a suggestion. Get a bright color. They make them black, gray, yellow, bright orange, like that crazy emergency orange color. Get a bright one. If for some reason it winds up in the water, you do want to be able to see it. And I have a funny feeling a black one's not going to show up very well floating in the water. So you might want to think along those lines. But these are excellent gifts. They ain't cheap. A small one, $39. Bigger ones, $109, $129. But they're worth it. I have some that I'm pretty sure I've had for 12 to 15 years. They still work like they did the day I got them. Now, I'll tell you this, they look like hell now because they've been through it. They've got all kinds of dirt and nicks and scars and stuff on the outside, but the inside is in really good shape. I use one for my drone. I use one for my cameras, for my GoPros and stuff like that. And then, of course, for special things that I don't want to lose or get damaged on board the boat. Coolers. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, along with refrigeration for camping, but coolers on boats, kayaks, and other floating things like canoes and stuff, they're never enough. In our house right now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 coolers, various sizes. We have a large Yeti. We have the next step down Yeti. I've got an igloo, a nice little igloo, and then several handbags. Those small little like Coleman type bags that you can carry around. There's never enough. When it comes to kayaking, you want something smallish, but big enough to hold a fish, for example, if you catch it. And if they don't keep fish, then don't worry about that. Go down in size. On a kayak, I do not care for something with zippers and latches. I would much rather have something I can turn around and just flip up with my thumb to get into. I usually keep it behind the seat. So, you're turning around trying to get the stuff on a kayak. It's much, much easier if it's got a pop top. But make sure the top is snug when it shuts because you don't want it to blow open in the wind. So there is that. Lately, I got these coolers. They're all doing this. the soft-sided ones. You got a soft side, but the inside is lined, so you can put ice in it and it doesn't water through, it doesn't leak through. Also, the top, it zips shut, but then it's got a little Velcro hatch, if you will, that you can pop up to get your hand into to get a bottle of water or something out without having to open the whole cooler up. Those are really convenient and really easy to use, especially on smaller craft. You want to do something nice? Get somebody a big old Yeti cooler. They're crazy expensive. They'd have to take you fishing. That's all there is to it. I mean, even a medium-sized Yeti, you're talking $300 to $400. But in the world of coolers, they're pretty hard to beat. I mean, they really are. I mean, there are others. They're knockoffs. Don't get me wrong, and they're good too. You can definitely check out there for a lot of other cooler manufacturers. But of course, Yeti's been king for a while, and probably will remain that way because they always keep coming up with interesting ideas for cups and other things that they like to market to the outdoor person. Earlier, I mentioned mounts in the case of a cup holder. They also make a lot of other mounts available that you might want to check out. There's a great many of them, I should say, for cameras, especially GoPros. If you find that your buddy, your friend, brother, sister, parents, whatever, are using some sort of a camera on board, whether it's on their kayak or their boat or a canoe, these mounts are great. They'll either screw into place or they lock down with a clamp, and it enables you to put a GoPro camera things or something like that on. They have an extension arm. They'll bend in a multitude of directions, that kind of stuff. Makes a nice gift. It really does. It's something that most people don't run right out and buy and add on. And I know on my kayak I've got one, and I love having that thing because I can point the camera in any direction that the action is happening. Life jackets. Life jackets make a super good personal gift. I'm not talking about the Coast Guard standards, the one that you have to have on board, which are usually those orange things that are type A, B, C, D. You have to, anyway, leave that up to the owner of the boat. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about comfortable life jackets like ski jackets, which, by the way, if you do that, the person on the boat can wear that, but they must have the Coast Guard approved one on board. So keep that in mind. These are supplemental. I love a quality ski jacket. I use it on the kayak, and I also used it boating, especially in nasty weather or when I was out by myself. They're comfortable. In cooler weather, they keep you warm, and in hot weather, they breeze. So, and again, this gets back to spinning the bucks again. Don't go chintzy on a life jacket. You're talking about somebody's life, for crying out loud. Get them a quality jacket. They're easy to size. You got a big man, you got a little kid, doesn't matter. They usually come showing average sizes, and they'll cover a large group. Like they'll have giant down to children's. And so it's pretty easy to kind of figure out. Again, save the receipt. They can always go back and swap it for the one that works the best. Inflatable life jackets. I got to give a personal, very, very, very heartfelt thank you to my mom. When I was guiding, I would go out every morning at the crack of dawn in the dark, not crack of dawn, in the dark before dawn, and go get bait, which is throwing a cast net for bait, 2 to 3 feet of water every morning. And it's dangerous. You're out there by yourself. It's dark. And you never know what you might throw the net on. Yes, I caught a manatee one time, pulled me right off the boat. Fortunately, I could stand up where that happened. But it's just one of those. It's one of those things where you don't know what's going to happen. So they make these wearable jackets that inflate. Now that does not work very well for throwing a cast net. What she got was like a fanny pack. It was really cool. You put it on, snap it in place, snug it up on your waist, and then spin it around behind you. So basically, you got a fanny pack in the small of your back, which, by the way, throwing a net doesn't really get in the way. What was nice about it is it had a pull cord on it that you could pull, which would automatically inflate it. You spin it around to your front and put your head through it, and you're done. A lot of them have hydrostatic switches in them. What that means is if you fall in the water and they hit the water, they automatically inflate. You'll notice that your FWC officers, your sheriff, stuff like that, they wear those suspender style ones. And that's what those are. Those will actually inflate in an emergency. Accidents happen all the time on the water. And almost every single time it's unexpected, and there is nothing wrong with having a quality life jacket around you. And I would suggest it as a gift. You give it to a loved one, you're showing them the respect that you have for them. You want them alive. So, go pick one out. Multicolors, multi-sizes. Again, in the store is probably the best place to go for these. But I would highly recommend that as a great gift. Let's do one more. This will cover boats, kayak, canoe, hikers, campers, etc., etc. A radio, a marine radio. Yeah. They're a walkie-talkie. If you don't know a walkie-talkie, they have gotten so good recently, and the prices have come way down. As a matter of fact, a lot of places now sell a pair, so you can get two of them. I'm a big Cobra fan. I like Cobra's product. They make an excellent one that floats, which is amazing. So it's completely waterproof, gets multi-channels, and has very high power on it. These things come in really handy out on the water. My wife Janelle and I use them on the kayaks. We each have one. That when we separate and you can't see each other, we can talk to each other. We know where they are. You can set the channels on it to a more private channel so you can chat back and forth on what's going on. I first started using these years ago, and then more recently, I fished with some buddies down in the Everglades, and each one of us had one on board. Remember, the first time I went, I didn't own one, and they gave me one of theirs, a loaner. It's fantastic. It's really good for keeping track of each other and, seeing what's going on. And, of course, in the case of emergency, it's got a channel on it to call the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard will come running. So marine radios, they're excellent. For me personally, I think that would make a fantastic gift. Man, oh, man, that 30 minutes went fast. A little overtime, actually. Thank you so much for listening. Without listeners like y'all, I wouldn't have a podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend. You can reach me via email at catchoutdoors@gmail.com. All questions and suggestions about future and past podcast subjects are more than welcome. Catch You Outdoors is hosted by Anchor and available via Spotify and now, big announcement, Apple Podcast. Apple Podcasts has picked me up. So if you have an iPhone and you have the little podcast icon, you just punch it. Type in your search, Catch You Outdoors, and bingo, you can listen. They also put up all my past shows on the Apple Podcast. Facebook page, Catch You Outdoors. Our website's catchyoutdoors.com. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.